Welcome to the fascinating world of biology. Seedling today, we'll explore cells, their structures and essential functions, from the powerhouse mitochondria to the genetic blueprint in the nucleus. Next, we'll uncover the processes of cell division, mitosis and meiosis. Learn how these processes drive growth, repair, and reproduction. Finally, we'll dive into ecology, examining the intricate interactions between organisms and their environments, and how energy flows through ecosystems. Join us as we unlock the secrets of life. Let's get started.
Ever actually stopped and thought about what makes something alive?
Yeah.
We talk about life all the time, but it's a surprisingly tricky thing to define, scientifically.
Yeah, we all kind of think we know it when we see it, like a dog's alive, a rock's not. But to get a definition that works for biologists, a definition that really gets at the core of it, that's, well, way more complicated.
You're telling me I got a peek at the notes you sent over from your Biology 101 class.
Yeah, that's right.
And wow, your professor did not mess around.
No, absolutely not. He dug deep, that's for sure.
It seems like way more than just, breathing and eating.
It's way more than just the basics. These notes, they go into all the nitty-gritty stuff, the characteristics that biologists actually use to look at something and say, yep, that's a living organism.
Okay, so, what's the starting point? Where do you even begin to break down something as big as life itself?
So it all starts with cells, the absolute fundamental unit. The source material really hits this point hard, no matter what it looks like, whether it's a teeny tiny bacteria or like a giant redwood tree.
Yeah.
The fact that it's made of cells, that's non-negotiable. That's the baseline.
So cells are the building blocks.
Yeah.
But what makes a cell a cell?
It's about what's going on inside. The source material, it goes into two main types, prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells. Prokaryotes, those are your bacteria. And they are crazy efficient. They've got everything they need to live, but they keep it simple.
Okay.
They don't even have a nucleus.
So prokaryotes are the minimalists of the cell world, huh?
Exactly. Tiny homes, but for cells. And then you've got eukaryotes.
You'd upgrade.
Oh, yeah. Way more complex. Think a high-rise building with all these specialized rooms. Those are the organelles.
Okay.
Mitochondria, for example, most people have at least heard of those.
Oh, yeah, the powerhouses.
That's the one. They're the energy factories, basically.
So that's where all the fuel for everything else comes from.
Exactly. But here's the truly wild part. There's this theory, the endosymbiotic theory, and it suggests that mitochondria and chloroplasts in plants, they were once, get this, free-living bacteria themselves.
Oh, wait, really?
Yeah, they got engulfed by other cells way back when and eventually became part of these more complex cells.
So, we might be walking around with ancient bacteria inside us right now.
Pretty much.
That's kind of amazing and also a little weird when you really think about it.
Right. And then you've got plant cells, and they've got those chloroplasts, which allow them to capture energy from sunlight, photosynthesis.
Oh, right. So they're what, solar powered?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's incredible they can take light energy and just transform it into chemical energy, basically making food from the sun.
That's amazing. Talk about sustainable living. They've got us beat. Okay, so we've got these incredible cells, these little powerhouses with all these different compartments all working together. But how do they actually, keep it all running?
Yeah. So that's where metabolism comes in. And our source material, it makes it really clear this isn't just one thing. It's this constant back and forth, this balance of building up and breaking down molecules.
Okay, so it's more than just oh, my metabolism is fast or slow, like we talk about with food and exercise.
Way more. Think of it as two processes working together. Anabolism is the building up part, and catabolism is breaking things down.
Okay.
So plants, during photosynthesis, they're doing anabolism, they're creating sugars, storing energy, and then we eat those plants.
Right, and we're doing
metabolism. Our bodies break those sugars down, and boom, energy we can use.
So it's a perfectly balanced cycle. Plants make the energy, we use it. That's amazing.
Totally. And it shows how all these characteristics of life, they're all linked. No cells, no metabolism, and you need both for growth and development, which our source material gets into next.
Okay, so let's talk about growth and development. I'm guessing it's got to be more than just things getting bigger over time.
Oh, for sure. The source material, it actually makes a really clear distinction between growth, that increase in size and mass and development, which is more about the changes in structure and function throughout an organism's life.
So growth is adding more blocks to the tower. Development is building the actual tower, making it more complex.
You got it.
So we're back. ticking up with evolution?
It's one of those topics that kind of makes your head spin a little, like where do you even start?
It's a process that's been going on for like literally billions of years, right?
Yeah.
It's shaped every single thing we see in nature. But luckily, our source material, it actually breaks it down pretty well.
Well, good, because I need all the help I can get. What's the first big idea when it comes to evolution?
Natural selection. You've probably heard it called survival of the fittest.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But that always seemed kind of oversimplified, like fittest meaning what exactly? Yeah, the source material, it makes it clear, fittest doesn't automatically mean biggest or strongest or fastest. It's all about being the best fit for your specific environment. Those are the organisms that are going to survive, they're going to reproduce, and key thing, they're going to pass on those traits that helped them thrive.
Right. So it's not about being better in some, like, universal way. It's about being well-suited to where you are, what you got to do to make it.
Exactly. And the best example, the one everyone learns in biology, Darwin's finches.
The birds.
Yeah. They were all over these islands, the Galapagos Islands, and each island, it was a little bit different food, different climate.
Oh, okay.
And over time, guess what? The finches on each island, they evolved different beaks, perfectly shaped to get the food that was most common on their island. Crazy, right?
That is pretty wild. So those tiny little differences in their beaks, that's all from just like trying to survive long enough to have some baby birds.
That's evolution in action. It's usually slow, it's usually happening in subtle ways, but over a long time, boom, crazy adaptations, maybe even new species.
So it's not like the birds are like thinking, I need to point to your beak to get these bugs.
Nope. It's the environment, essentially, that's doing the selecting. If you've got a trait that gives you an edge, even a small one, you're more likely to, well, not become lunch.
Right, and then pass on that not becoming lunch trait. Makes sense. So we've got natural selection, but you said it wasn't the whole story.
Oh, yeah. Evolution gets even wilder. Our source material, it also talks about genetic drift. That's when gene frequencies change randomly, especially in small populations.
Okay, so sometimes it's not about being the fittest. It's just about, like, luck of the draw.
Kinda. Imagine a field of flowers, right? Most are purple, but there's a few rare white ones.
Okay, got it.
Now, say a landslide happens, totally random, wipes out most of the purple flowers. Next generation, boom, mostly white flowers. Not because white was better, just because of that random event.
Wow, so sometimes evolution is just like being in the right spot at the right time, genetically speaking?
Sometimes, yeah. And then there's gene flow, too, when genes are transferred between populations.
Okay, I'm following.
Like, think about animals migrating, moving between groups. They bring their genes with them.
Sure, so they're, spicing things up genetically?
Love it. Like adding new ingredients to a recipe, more variation, more possibilities for evolution to work on.
Makes sense. So all these things, natural selection, genetic drift, gene flow, they all work together to make life as diverse as it is.
That's the idea. But here's the thing, underpinning all of that, every single organism, there's this one fundamental thing, genetic information. Our source material, it calls DNA, or sometimes RNA, the instruction manual, the blueprint for life.
DNA, okay, so that's where it all starts.
That's where it all comes from. DNA has the code, and it's organized into genes, little segments of DNA that are like blueprints for making proteins.
I vaguely remember proteins from school. They're important for that something.
They're essential. Think of them as the tiny machines that do all the work in a cell.
Oh, okay.
They make reactions happen, they transport stuff, they even give the cell its structure.
So it's like a chain of command. DNA's the boss, genes are the middle managers, and proteins are out there on the factory floor actually building and running things.
Exactly. And here's the cool part. The genetic code itself, like the basic language of DNA, it's universal. All life on Earth uses it. But it's the specific sequence, the order of those genes, that's what makes each species, each individual unique.
So that's why I've got brown eyes, but my best friend's got blue eyes. It's all in the DNA.
Precisely. Eye color, height, even your risk for certain diseases, it's all influenced by your unique DNA sequence.
Wild. And those differences, they come from reproduction, mutations, all that good stuff, right? That's what keeps evolution going.
It's like a constant remix.
Yeah.
And it never stops, which is what makes studying life so fascinating.
Okay, so we went from tiny cells to massive evolutionary timescales. Where do we even go from here?
Well, our source material, it doesn't stop at just one organism or even one species. It takes us on a journey from the tiniest parts of life to how it all comes together on a planetary scale.
Okay, now I'm really interested. Break it down for me. What's this about a hierarchy?
It all starts with the basics, atoms and molecules.
Right, the absolute smallest building blocks.
Exactly. Then those molecules, they combine into bigger, more complex things, like the organelles we were talking about before.
Okay, I see where this is going. It's like those Russian nesting dolls. Each level contains the next one.
Perfect analogy. Those organelles, they make up cells, and cells are the fundamental units of life. But it doesn't stop there.
There's more levels to this.
Oh, yeah. So you've got cells, but then groups of similar cells, they work together, and that's what we call a tissue.
Okay, like muscle tissue, right? That's just a bunch of muscle cells all doing their thing together.
You got it. Muscle tissue, nervous tissue, all working together, each with a specific job to do. But then
I'm sensing a but here.
tissues, they come together to form organs, your heart, your lungs, your stomach. Each organ has its own specialized function.
This is blowing my mind a little bit. I never thought about it like this before. So we've got organs. What's next?
Organs working together. Those are organ systems, like your cardiovascular system, that's your heart and blood vessels, all working together to pump blood throughout your body.
And that's all happening inside one single organism.
Yeah.
Right. Me, for example. But you said something about like the entire planet being connected.
We're getting there. We're zooming out even further now. So above the level of a single organism, you've got populations.
Right. Groups of the same species all living together. Like a herd of zebras or a colony of ants.
Perfect. And all those different populations, all those different species living and interacting in one place, that forms a community.
A community, like a whole forest ecosystem, right? With all different kinds of trees and plants and animals.
Exactly. And when you take that community and you add in the physical environment, the soil, the water, the climate, that whole picture, that's an ecosystem.
It's like this beautiful tapestry, and each thread is important to the whole thing.
I love that. And think about it, all of this, from tiny cells to vast ecosystems, it highlights how interconnected everything is. What we do, even on a small scale, can have ripple effects throughout these amazing systems.
Okay, so we've got ecosystems, but you were talking about the entire planet being connected.
Almost there. The very top level, encompassing everything else, is the biosphere. That's the sum total of all ecosystems on Earth. Every single living thing, from the highest mountains to the deepest oceans. It's pretty mind-blowing when you really think about it.
It is. And it kind of makes you realize that biology isn't just about memorizing facts. It's about understanding this incredible web of life that we're a part of.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
There's a lot to take in.
It really is. But before we get ahead of ourselves, our source material dives into another really important part of life, how organisms sense and react to the world around them.
Let's take a quick break, then we'll come back and unpack that. This is already one for the books. All right, we're back and ready to jump into how organisms actually react to the world around them.
It's a pretty fundamental dance, right? Life interacting with its environment.
Totally.
Our source material, it makes it clear being able to respond to what's going on around you. That's not just an extra feature, it's essential for survival.
Okay, makes sense.
And it's not always about like conscious decisions either. It's about all those automatic reactions that keep things ticking, from individual cells to like whole ecosystems.
Okay, so what are we talking about here? What kind of reactions?
So the source material, it breaks it down into two main categories.
Yeah.
Immediate responses, like reflexes, and then adaptations that happen over a much longer time, over generations.
Got it. So one's like super fast, the other one's a slow burn.
Exactly. Like think about touching a hot stove, you don't even think, you just yank your hand back.
Oh yeah, instantly. Ouch.
Right. That's your nervous system being like, nope, danger, abort mission. Plants do this too, like a Venus flytrap snapping shut.
Right. Got to catch that lunch.
All right.
But what about those longer term changes, the adaptations?
That's where evolution gets really elegant, like camouflage. The source material uses that as a prime example.
Okay, yeah, blending in makes sense.
If you can't be seen, predators, they're going to have a harder time, right? So over time, the organisms with the best camouflage, they're the ones surviving, they're reproducing, and they're passing down those camouflage genes.
It's like the environment is deciding which traits get to stick around.
Exactly. And it's not just about looks either. Think about a plant growing towards the light. That's phototropism.
Oh, right, like when you see plants on a windowsill all reaching for the sun.
That's it. They don't have eyes, but they can sense where the light is, and they actually adjust how they grow to get the most of it.
Wow, that's way more complex than I ever realized. So it's all these things, all these reactions, big and small, that really shape how life exists.
100%. And it all comes back to those core characteristics we've been unpacking. From the building blocks of cells to how organisms react and evolve, it paints this incredible picture of life on Earth.
It really does. We started with the simple question, what makes something alive? And it turns out There's a whole universe in that question.
There really is. And what's amazing is, for as much as we know, there's still so much we're figuring out, still so many mysteries to unravel.
Which I think is pretty exciting.
Yeah.
It means there's always more to explore, more to learn, right?
Exactly. And that's what makes this whole deep dive so fascinating. From the tiniest cells to the entire planet, life is interconnected and constantly evolving.
Well said. And on that note, we'll wrap things up for today. But hey, listeners, keep those brains buzzing. What questions about life really get you thinking? Let us know. We're always up for a good deep dive.
Thanks for joining us on this journey through biology. We explored the wonders of cells, cell division, and ecological interactions. If you found this valuable, hit that like button and subscribe for more insights. Share your thoughts in the comments. What should we explore next? Stay curious, and see you in the next deep dive.